Frankfurt's basic idea is this: you're morally responsible for doing something when and only when what you do is consistent with your volitions. That is to say, you do something and you have a second-order desire to be moved by a first-order desire to do that thing. The best way of seeing this, what this means, is perhaps looking back at some examples. So, what's a case where somebody isn't morally responsible for what they do? One kind of case would be where the person has first-order desires, but no second-order desires at all. So the person is just a kind of beast, doesn't reflect upon his condition at all, just goes around doing things, maybe even bad things. Maybe goes around, doing bestial bad things, but doesn't reflect at all on what sort of person he is and what sort of person he wants to be. He just does the bad things. He goes around, takes stuff. He eats your ice cream. Let's just think about that. And never at any point gave a thought to whether he wanted to be the kind of person who acted on urges to take ice creams. A person like that, Harry Frankfurt said, is a wanton. And wantons are not morally responsible because they're not acting in a manner that they endorse. They're just like beasts, purely controlled by their first-order desires. They're just at the whim of their first-order desires. They have no control over their first-order desires. Second kind of example of a case where Harry Frankfurt thinks we're not morally responsible. Take the person he calls an unwilling addict. So, drug addict feels tremendous desire, tremendous, like overwhelming desire to take the drug. At the same time, wishes that he didn't have such desires, and wishes that if he did have such desires, they didn't move him. So he's, on the one hand, moved to take the drug, on the one hand thinking, I wish I wasn't moved to take the drug. I wish that this compulsion that I had to take the drug was overcome by a stronger compulsion in the other direction. This person, if he takes the drug, is acting contrary to his volition because he doesn't want to be the sort of person who's moved by a desire like that. And so, Harry Frankfurt said, he's not morally responsible for what he does. Third case, Oprah and you. Recall that Oprah attacked you when she was gripped by this bug. Is she morally responsible for what she did? Well, on a plausible sort of way of telling the story, what happened was that Oprah was gripped by this uncontrollable urge to attack you. She didn't, while she was attacking you, think, oh yes, I, Oprah, want to be the sort of person who is moved by urges to attack people. She probably wasn't thinking about it at all. And if she was thinking about it, she was probably thinking, what am I doing? I'm Oprah. Why am I suddenly attacking this person? She's not morally responsible, says Frankfurt, for doing what she does. Why are volitions so important? Well, his idea is that when you act in a manner consistent with your volition, you are the author of your action. It's really you doing it, acting that way. He puts it another way. He says you identify with your second-order desire, your volition. Whereas when you act in a manner that's inconsistent with your volition, or you just don't have a volition at all, it's as if you are being buffeted by circumstance. It's as if forces outside of your control are in charge of the action. It's as if you're just at the whims of tide and waves and wind, all things outside of your control. This is a kind of elusive, it seems deep, but it's slightly difficult to get a true grip on this idea. A way of thinking about it is like this. Volitions come about when you notice a conflict in your first-order desires, and you desire to kind of get a handle on the conflict. You want to kind of resolve the conflict. And you want to resolve the conflict by thinking about the kind of person you want to be. And this is a way of gaining authority over the action, saying which of these desires is an expression of me and of how I want myself to be. And so once you've done that and you've formed the volition, the second order desire. You've got to identify with that volition. You've got to think, yes, that's the one. That's the desire of mine that I want to be effective. And in doing so, you get behind it and reject the first order desires inconsistent with it. Take them to be forces that you're not really behind, forces that seem to you like pushing you, but as if they were forces from outside pushing you. That's his basic idea. So, canonic example, the unwilling addict. When the unwilling addict feels the urge to take the drug, he's got the needle in his hand and he feels tremendous urge to inject himself. Also feels an inclination not to do so. Tries to get a grip on the situation by thinking, what kind of a person do I want to be? Do I want to be the kind of person who's moved by the urge or moved by the desire to be sober? Forms that desire to be, the second order desire, to be the kind of person who's not moved by his urge. That fails. He is moved by the urge. He's then going to feel the force that's moving his arm it's not an expression of me. It's not me that's really moving my arm. Of course, it's my body that's doing it. It's nobody else's hand that's plunging in the needle. But the mental impulse that's leading my hand to press the needle into my vein, that's not something that I identify with. That's not something that I think of as an expression of me, my character, myself as I want to be. And when you have things like that, you can't really blame the person for doing it, because it's not really him that's doing it at all. He's no more in control of the situation than he would be if a magnetic field were pushing the needle towards his arm.